Okay, let me go over here. All right.
That's not my food.
Okay, I think we're good. Shut my door, Dominic.
What?
Shut my door.
Okay.
All right, everybody, I think we are back. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of rainy out here. It's kind of rainy. This is a little storm outside, but we're good. All right, we're going to continue right now. Make sure that we're public. All right, let's go.
Charlie, in his own words, this was a internal memo that went out, signed off by Charlie on September 2nd.
I'm not really a cupcake.
Let's make sure that we like
but
Candace's
I am
stream.
super baked. Thanks to Mood Canada.
Mood is third-party
There
test.
we go.
I'm going to skip to the relevant portions. He's first and foremost announcing that Dear Team America, effective immediately, again, September 2nd, Justin Strife is taking on a new elevated role with Turning Point USA as its COO since joining TPUSA in 2020.
Okay, so this is
Justin
from
has led Turning
Point.
Point's fundraising division and in more recent years has been involved in some organizational operations, filling the COO role in many ways, but now officially taking on the title and expanded responsibilities. Now we're going to jump to that last big paragraph. He writes, in this role, I have
Doge
empowered
expert.
Justin, among other priorities, to engage in an organizational-wide Doge effort. Justin will be assembling a small team to assist in this effort, which is focused on Turning Point USA, 1, becoming more efficient, 2, becoming more cost-effective, 3, unifying organizational success around company-wide metrics and goals, and 4, reshaping company culture. I expect many positive changes to come from this forthcoming initiative and Justin's expanded role. Please join me in congratulating Justin on this new role with the organization. So I felt that with all of the rumors that I'm hearing,
So
to
they're
see that
trying to
Charlie
do like a
was
Doge
essentially
thing, I'm guessing?
putting together a small team to begin looking at money and ways to be more quote unquote efficient, it's looking like that's relevant, that all of these tips that we are receiving from insiders is accurate.
Right.
And what we're understanding is that there were a lot of contractors and people essentially who were taking money both ways, who were bringing in money and cutting deals. Said simply, the money was looking funny, okay? And Charlie set out to determine why, which means that others should maybe set out to determine why. Is this department still going? And like I said to you, others are setting out to determine why. There are journalists, forensic accountants that have been hired, and what I have been
Nice.
shown, the preliminary findings are quite astonishing, okay? And I will say this, my sources at Turning Point said something that I found to be crucial, interesting. They said that Charlie wasn't just concerned about where the money was going, but also where the money was coming from. Where the money was coming from. What are we to make of that? Okay? What are we to make of that? What does that mean? Either speaking about companies that were kind of flooding the zone with money so that they could have more influence, but they had questions about those companies. It sounds like there were people who were effectively double agents, making money on commissions on both sides of a contract. I've seen a lot, and I'm going to allow the reports to come out next week. that people who have really seized upon that and are looking at things.
Wow.
And I think a lot's going to be revealed, like I said, as it should. We want to know everything. We want to know absolutely everything.
So people were burning the
I'm going to tell you
company
guys a
and pretty
bit
much
more, as well as
taking money off
responding
the
to
top of the
a
company.
lot of what I think are just unfair criticisms of people that are attacking Erica. And I'll tell you why I feel that those criticisms are unfair. But first, I want to throw it to Riverbend Ranch. I told you I met the CEO of this company when I was with Charlie years ago. And we went out to meet him. Wonderful person. Everyone wanted to do something to try and heal. And remember Charlie and my friends at Riverbend Ranch put together the following tribute to honor him.
We pay tribute to Charlie Kirk, and we celebrate the tremendous good he did in his life. Charlie courageously advocated for the sacred principles of freedom, constructive discourse, truth, family values, and common sense. He taught with humor and wisdom, and backed up his beliefs with data and facts. He set a powerful example of reaching out and talking to those who disagreed with him. We mourn his passing, but what he taught us continues to resonate with even more power.
A message from all of us at Riverbend Ranch.
Also want to tell you guys about PDS debt, because the system is not broken. It's actually rigged.
She's doing all her little plugs.
And for whatever reason, it's very limited. So every time anything that I'm debunking here is just because I want to help focus his investigation. But so he presents an argument that you can see
the viral
YouTube,
range,
and he has the video is just absolutely viral. It's got 6 million views. And by the way, I am so happy that it's got 6 million views. Everybody investigating this is exactly what we need, and nobody is going to be perfect. We're going to get things wrong, and we can only work with the information that's given us, that's been given to us, and for whatever reason, it's very limited. So every time anything that I'm debunking here is just because I want to help focus his investigation.
Are not doing
but so he presents an argument that you can see a muzzle flash, and there is one element of his video where he shows what he believes to be blood splatter as an entry point on Charlie's neck. So we can watch that, take a listen.
And in that video, you can see the same, what appears to be the bullet coming down, and it does line up with the actual gunshot itself.
They're not counting gang violence. Great.
If your child has used Roblox, you might be owed significant compensation from a lawsuit currently underway.
So this video was created by a friend of mine who is a Marine. You'll see him here at the end. This is the angle he is showing the shot coming from, showing where Charlie was sitting, and the angle of the shot, which will correspond with this video here, which unfortunately we will blur out Charlie's face, but we will show what is necessary to prove that this was an entry and exit wound. So you'll see him circle the highlighted area right there, and you'll see the exit wound corresponding after, split second after, as it would from an entry and exit wound. So in this footage, you can clearly see that Charlie is shot from his back right, and there is blood splatter coming out of the entry wound.
Okay. So what I can immediately help with, because I have so much footage and clearer footage of that, is that's actually not blood splatter. And I was very surprised by this. It's his necklace. That is his necklace. And it was one of the things that struck me as odd. And I saw the back footage, and then I have clear footage from the front. And the necklace goes first. And if I'm looking at it, it looks like it breaks from here, and then it comes up and it whips up. That is Charlie's necklace chain. So I hope that sort of helps focus that. And I don't know if that helps change your opinion at all, but I wanted to add that. The second thing is I wanted to show you a photo, a different angle of where that flash that he is looking at came from. Because the thing that I don't understand is that particular window doesn't open. So if you're saying it's inside, and I might be wrong, so you can see, and I hope I have this right. If I'm wrong, please let me know, and I will adjust immediately. But that window is from that zone, which they call like the flag hall, which is where that person actually shot the footage on the other side of it.
It could be
where we saw the person running across the roof.
From the guy somewhere right here,
That's basically above the underpass. And so you can see from this angle that those windows, I don't know if we have a more forward picture of that style. If we don't, it's okay. But from everything that I could see, those windows don't open. So if it's coming from inside, if that's where you're saying, and I had that location correctly, again, I'm happy to update this if I'm wrong, then we should see broken glass.
Saying that's the reflection.
So let me know if I'm right about that. I will say there was another piece, and this part I have not been able to debunk, but I am sending someone there to get me similar footage, which is when you discuss a suspicious looking bush. So I will let Range Day Bro present that theory. Take a listen.
I want to take a look at this photo next. This guy's talking about this bush up here in the top left of this photo, and he zooms in on it, and he's stating that it does look suspicious. It does look suspicious. It looks like there is a person right here, and it looks like there is a rifle right here that the person is holding. A hand here, a support hand, sort of very blurry image, but you can clearly make out that this is not just a bush. This is a human skin tone right here, and this correlates with a human head and hair and a rifle in the exact kind of crucifix shape of an AR-15 with an optic on it mounted up.
So what I can say, and I'm looking at my minute-to-minute text messages because I sent somebody there on the ground to get me pictures of that bush today, and I agree with you. In the smaller, in the photos that I'm looking at today, the bush, you can kind of see through it. And in the image that you have, granted, it is grainy. It doesn't seem like you can see through it. So I am interested in that, and I am prodding that narrative, and I will let you know what I come up with. Anyways, again, the point of me doing that was just to help further direct
here. So if he was right there,
theories,
the reflection would have came off these windows
ideas,
if they
and
were
I think
down
that's great.
here
Until the
looking
feds
up.
answer our questions,
You see
until
what I'm
we see
saying?
more footage of what took place that day, all of us need to stay on top of it because we all
That's why you were able to see the flash. You seen the flash of the reflection from the muzzle going off across. So if you're looking down and up, you're going to see directly that way going the opposite direction. You know what I'm saying?
that something is very wrong and we are not getting the truth. One more thing that I'd like to share with you guys. You will recall yesterday during the comment section, we got a tip. A young woman that said that that doorbell footage was intentionally presented to the public only partially, and that the reality is that there was more footage, which showed the person that they allege is Tyler Robinson walking with a woman who they don't know who that is, and that he changes clothes. So I'm not sure if there was more footage on the side of the house. There's another angle, but there was allegedly footage of Tyler changing clothes, and he is with an unidentified woman. What I will say is I have established connection with that individual, and it's a solid lead, and it's only going to get more interesting in terms of who is involved in that cover-up.
I did hear
locally,
about that.
like a Utah person involved in that cover-up, which is another piece of this puzzle that I find to be fascinating. I will have more for you guys next week as we continue this. I always want to make sure that we give people an opportunity to respond and to answer what it is that we are putting out there and making sure that our reports are accurate.
Yeah, so they didn't release a lot of the footage, and the footage that they did release, it seems like they clipped certain parts of it that they wanted and released that. They didn't release the whole footage, the whole video that they had, you know what I mean, in each incident. So that's very suspicious, and I still don't understand why Turning Point hasn't released the camera footage from behind the camera, from behind the stage, and the 4K footage of them recording, not the live footage, but the footage of the cameras that were recording in 4K.
And I will have more for you on that next week. I do also want to address people who are inundating me speaking about Erica Kirk. And I think the reason why this was catalyzed was because of a fundraising email and text messages went out, and people found it to be distasteful and like a fundraising off of his death. Okay, first and foremost, the reason why I said, and I meant it genuinely, was to pray for Erica a couple of days ago. And I said she is stepping into a role as CEO and the chairman of a company that got bigger than Charlie, by everything that I am understanding, and just having been there, I saw it happening, and a company that she's going to have to learn in 4 seconds how this whole thing's work. It is a...
Yeah. Having to learn how to run a company completely. I mean, I'm sure she learned a lot from her husband, but I don't know, being able to run that company, especially as a woman.
Okay. Those emails that you saw or checked, that was not written by Erica Kirk. That will be an entire department. And these are emails when you fundraise. I've had fundraising emails go out with my face and my name on them. They are not authored by Erica Kirk. And I want you guys to know that, right? I just think it's like, I don't know, it just feels so unfair to me to assign the amount of pressure that is on her right now. She has not come out and said anything to me that makes her suspicious, because I understand how that organ works. And I understand how people, when they are motivated by money, how they don't even think about these things. It can be so gross. I mean, I have really gotten into arguments with people when I felt that they were using my face and representing things, and I was getting pushback from the public. And I'm like, I would have never done this. I would have never made that decision. And yet I'm going to be the person that gets all the flack for the decision that you made. I've had those arguments.
Really,
and so when I see this go out, irrespective of how you feel, you should know that those decisions are not made by Erica. That's what it means to step into a company of that size and that scale, okay? Their focus is going to be something different. And she has had, I think, a tremendous amount of grace in the speech that she gave, which I felt was very inspiring. And we should similarly have grace, give her time to get her, first and foremost, the adjustment in her life herself, and to be thrown in such a horrific way, it just can't be fun. So I'm just reminding us all to just have a little bit of
She really
grace
took a lot on, bro.
Anyways, you guys, before I get into more of your comments, I want to tell you about Just Thrive, because the biggest health...
All right,
Why would you...
I think that's it from Candace. So we're going to take a look at this other thing that I was showing on pretty much the reaction of everybody after the fact.
To be some sort of a model. She was a contestant on a show called America's Next Top Model.
About Charlie Kirk.
Okay, so look at what these people are putting out, bro. It's so disgusting.
Eye for an eye. I think the only thing that went wrong that day was that Trump wasn't standing behind him getting a secondhand bullet.
Model. She's as ugly on the inside as she is on the outside.
That's a model, right?
That brings me to Jemele Hill, the former ESPN anchor, the race-baiting simpleton, who continues to lie and engage in deliberate misinformation. Listen to what she says about the man charged with murdering Charlie.
In the wake of Charlie's murder, there was an incredible amount of angry discourse from the right, blaming the Democrats, blaming liberals, saying, you're the reason this happened. Only to find out, surprise, 22-year-old white dude, loved guns, raised by two parents, lived in a good home, dad is a minister, also a sheriff.
So what are you trying to say?
Checking in them boxes y'all thought he would check, did he?
Well, he checked the boxes I expected him to check, Jemele. He is a far-left trans activist lunatic who regurgitates the same BS you do. He claims Charlie was spreading hate.
I don't know about anybody else, but I think he's a patsy.
Hateful. His dad wasn't a sheriff, but he did appear to come from a decent family. It just shows that coming from a decent, God-fearing family isn't enough to inoculate a sick mind from toxic leftist indoctrination. And did Jemele really blame Republicans, conservatives for angry discourse? I mean, how dare we be angry that a brilliant young man was murdered in front of his children? How dare we call out those celebrating this sickening act of domestic terrorism? And be on guard for those who claim that this isn't a left or right issue, that this isn't political, that there isn't a clear motive. Those are lies, and we're not putting up with lies.
Definitely
we are not
lies.
tolerating the left's bold-faced lies and gaslighting, including this from CBS.
5 days after Charlie Kirk's murder, the shooter's motive remains elusive. No writings left behind, vague secondhand testimony. That uncertainty and the risk of drawing sweeping conclusions.
Oh, I got something else from Candace too. I forgot. I'm going to show you guys right now.
Violence not driven by an obvious political ideology.
No clear ideology, except Tyler Robinson told us precisely what his ideology is and why he targeted Charlie Kirk. There is zero mystery about the motives of Tyler Robinson or his political ideology. The only question is, who else may have been involved? Now, let's hear from The View. Here is Whoopi Goldberg offering some sober analysis.
Well, everybody has something to say. You see that shit? Everybody has something to say. So look, let's go back to Candace over here, and she released this yesterday.
Okay, I didn't want to leave you guys on a crazy weekend cliffhanger. I needed to get that information out as soon as possible. Obviously, you can probably see that I received some information, a communication.
So we're going to watch and listen to what she says, and then I'm going to read what she has down at the bottom. All right? So let's listen to what she says first, and then we'll read what's at the bottom.
Which answered a lot of questions that the public has had about the story, or rather the non-story that we are getting from the feds. The push that Tyler Robinson is this lone shooter, which they're trying to establish as a fact. Some of the burning questions that we had, okay, well, if he turned himself in, how did he also not confess? I now have the answers to that. The main point, the reason why this information came to me, is because there's a narrative being spun right now by the media that Tyler Robinson is or was suicidal. That is not true. And that's a very scary thing when suddenly they're saying he's suicidal and, you know, he's in solitary, and he's not suicidal. So that was the reason why this information urgently came to me. Obviously, I know a lot more, and I'm going to share it with you guys on Monday. I just wanted to vet some of the things that I heard, ask some more questions from people that would know, and this is just important to make sure everything I say is above board. And obviously, this lead led to more leads, and I want to give people a chance to respond. This is crazy. Nothing more that I can say. This is very serious. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that what we are being told has gone on is just not so. And this is really kind of going to begin, I think, to answer a lot of questions and many more questions that need to be asked. So I just wanted to let you know that what they're telling us about him being suicidal is not true.
All right, check this out.
Okay, I didn't want to leave you guys on a...
First one, check this. She says, I want to break this news immediately because it feels important. I think if I don't break it immediately, something bad might happen. I hope I have earned the trust enough of the people to believe me when I say that I have verified this information but cannot reveal the source.
A crazy weekend cliffhanger. I needed to get that information out as soon as possible. Obviously, you can...
Right here. Tyler Robinson is not suicidal. The entire narrative that was placed in the media about him having been suicidal is completely fictional, as are many other aspects of what we have been told. Okay, so Tyler Robinson is not suicidal. The entire narrative that was placed in the media about him having been suicidal is completely fictional, as are many other aspects of what we have been told. All right?
You can probably see that I received some information, a communication, which answered a lot of questions that the public has.
Okay, the next one. His father having turned him in after confessing is also complete fiction. That's why he's pleading not guilty. That means that they don't have a confession. Okay. To the contrary, Tyler Robinson maintains his innocence and has never even been to the EVU campus. Wow. There are absolutely zero photos or video that the campus can produce to the contrary. So they can't even show him there. Well, it's not really 100% because you can't really see the face, right? I don't know about that one. I think they got him there, but I don't think they got him with the gun or with anything. So I don't know about that one. We'll have to look more into that.
About the story, or rather the non-story that we are getting from the feds.
There are absolutely zero photos or video that the campus can produce to the contrary.
The push that Tyler Robinson is this low.
Okay. Which is why they have produced nothing other than a blurry image, which Tyler's family knows is not him. Tyler has never once expressed a suicidal thought. I want to make that clear. The federal government is lying about absolutely everything other than the fact that it is his gun. So it is his gun, their family gun. But that's not the gun that shot Charlie. Get it? Because a 30-06 would have completely blew his head off. You know what I mean? There's no way that was a 30-06. There's just no way possible.
lone shooter, which they're trying to establish as a fact. Some of the burning questions that we had, okay, well, if he turned himself in, how...
Right here. Not that we needed further substantiation. Yeah, not that we needed further substantiation, but Tyler Robinson did not author those Discord messages. Of course, we all know that, really. We all know that. All right. I would like to again stress that he has never been to UVU campus, and I need to confirm this later. I believe he was around the campus on that day. I will have more on this later, but I wanted to immediately publish that the Tyler Robinson suicide narrative, plus the dad that did the right thing after realizing his son was guilty, is a federal concoction. What? Bro. A federal concoction. My God. Hold on. We got to go to the next one. Whoops.
Okay, I didn't want to leave you guys.
What was it at?
Is because there's a narrative being spun right now by the media that Tyler Robinson is or was suicidal. That
is this the last
point,
one?
the reason why this
Yeah, okay, this is the last
information came to me is because there's a narrative being spun right now by the media that Tyler Robinson is or was suicidal. That is not true. And that's a very scary thing when suddenly they're saying he's suicidal and, you know, he's in solitary and he's not suicidal. So that was the reason why this information urgently came to me. Obviously, I know a lot more, and I'm going to share it with you guys on Monday. I just wanted to vet some of the things that I heard, ask some more questions from people that would know, and just to make sure everything I say is above board. And obviously, this lead led to more leads, and I want to give people a chance to respond. This is crazy. Nothing more that I can say. This is very serious. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that what we are being told has gone on is just not so. And this is really kind of going to begin, I think, to answer a lot of questions and many more questions that need to be asked. So I just wanted to let you know that what they're telling us about him being suicidal is not true.
Nah, and they're trying to, man, that's so, and they're trying to close the case, I heard. I think Valhalla was the one that showed that he was trying to, watch, hold on. Let's check out some of Valhalla's stuff real quick, because I know he was saying, oh yeah, he had this FBI expert on.
Can you please just hear me out? No, all work management platforms are the same. They take forever to learn,
and that how the feds are really messing up.
All right, everybody, welcome. The FBI working at the highest levels, I believe, and I don't want to introduce you wrong. I hate when people do that for me, but you were the director of the science and technology side?
That's correct. I ran all science and technology programs for the FBI in my last post.
Okay, and yeah, so if anyone knows how the FBI works, I would say
about this guy. He's saying pretty much how bad
it's going to be you, and
he's saying pretty much how bad the feds are messing up.
And we want to talk today about, you know, I mean, the FBI's role in this Charlie Kirk situation, because, I mean, I bet if we did a poll right now and I said to the viewers, and we might actually do one while we talk, who trusts the FBI in 2025, I bet it would be abysmal. And I got to imagine for
crazy,
you,
bro.
Chris, having spent so much time in that agency, I mean, that's got to kind of piss you off, right? I feel like that would piss me off as a Green Beret if my agency I poured all that time in or lost all the respect. So,
what happened? What happened?
If you want to give us a little bit more deep dive on you and your career too, and some of the things you've done, so that way the viewers who don't know you already get a little better idea before we jump in.
Sure, I'll give you a real quick, and yes, it does piss me off, by the way. And but I'll give you a real quick nickel tour. Joined the FBI in '95, retired in 2020, and what I did for the FBI, I worked mainly in the national security arena after 9/11. I was in the Newark field office in Newark, New Jersey, and on 9/11, and I actually saw the smoke rising from the first tower strike across the river from my office.
He's just showing that he has credentials and this and that.
Time
right?
from there, worked in a number of national security roles, did a lot of overseas work with partners, worked in some counterintelligence areas in the, I would call it technical collection, right?
Okay.
We did a lot of that type of work with folks over in Langley at Fort Meade and some other components. And I was in charge of the field office in Buffalo, New York, ran that office, covered the whole western side of New York for all FBI programs, criminal, national security, cyber, everything.
We want to hear about Charlie,
and
bro.
then
We don't really
went
care
back
too
to
much about your
headquarters,
background.
and I ran the U.S. government's terrorist screening center. And I ran that for 24-hour global counterterrorism interdiction screening. I was the guy who was always getting sued for the no-fly list because I was the adjudicator. I decided who went on and who didn't, so I was always getting sued.
Right.
And in my last post, I was selected to run the FBI's science and technology program, and I had the largest FBI branch and the largest budget and the most people out of the entire FBI. And we did all of the the technical things, but basically, in a nutshell, I had three major components. One
Candace?
was the operational technology division, and that's where we did all of the
I played
James
it first.
Bond type of
I played it first, and then we were talking about
I had the FBI
what
crime
she was
lab,
putting inside
which
the
they
thing.
are deeply involved right
So
now
I
in
played
the
it
Charlie Kirk
first.
incident.
Without saying anything.
Also the Criminal Justice Information Services Division, they ran all of the national asset programs for all criminal justice, biometrics. Whenever the cops pull you over, I know that's never happened to you, Nate, but when they do pull you over and they're checking their computer systems, they're querying our systems.
Okay.
So I manage all that as well as
we understand
some
what this
counter
guy's
IED
background
stuff,
is. Let's see.
with the DoD as a partner. So in a nutshell,
He
that's
starts
kinda where
talking
I've
about
spent 25
Charlie's
years of my
thing
life,
on how
and,
they messed
it
up.
it was great up until the end when I watched the FBI take a turn and become this different corporatized FBI, which you could see where that led us.
Yeah, and I already see in the chat, there's plenty of people, once a Fed, always a Fed. This is where people are, the FBI has lost so much credibility. But for the viewers to know, I mean, and I pinned your book in the pinned comment for everybody. I suggest you all go buy it. I mean, your book is literally titled The FBI I Once Knew. I mean, you've been fairly outspoken about exactly what we're talking about here.
I've been on many shows, and while I don't go on, I'm not flamethrowing the FBI, but I will call out their faults. I will tell you where they've misstepped and how they went off the path of being the FBI of old. As you mentioned when we first came on, the FBI was once one of the most trusted and revered of our government agencies, and they squandered that over the years, especially the past 4 years under the Biden administration. They were doing some really questionable and sometimes awful things, in my opinion, as I'm sitting out in the kind of peanut gallery now. And I just, in talking to some of my former colleagues, I'm asking, what are you doing? What's going on?
Imagine
so
being
they have
able
this
to build
guy
anything
pretty much
just by
up
thinking
here
about
is
it.
going to
Meet
talk about
Base
how
44.
they're messing up with Charlie Kirk's thing
And,
whenever he gets to it.
Yeah, and it was basically just that stuff was rolling down from on high, and they were trying to do their best to do their jobs and maintain their oath. And I told one guy one day, he goes, well, why didn't they just not do it? And I said, well, there's a difference between being an independent investigator and an insubordinate investigator, and you got to kind of walk that line. And that's what a lot of them were doing. And there's still lots of good folks at the Bureau, but there were some not so good folks at the Bureau.
And I want to get into, let's start to jump into a little bit of this Charlie Kirk situation.
Sure.
Because I've got a lot of questions for you, basically, just based off what I've seen the FBI do. And I want to talk to you if this is like normal, because from the very beginning, the reporting of the FBI seemed so bizarre to me. I'm sure you're aware. Right in the start, this happens within an hour. Kash Patel's tweeting that we got the shooter, and then an hour later he's tweeting, just kidding, we don't got the shooter. And then he tweets an hour
that's
later,
how they were really messing
and
up.
it turns out, it's just a guy with a pellet rifle in downtown Provo. And then immediately the
fact that they're tweeting out every single little lead, every single little thing, and that's the director of the feds, bro, tweeting this out. Like, what? You have a social media addiction or something? Like, what's going on with this dude, right? Like, you don't tweet everything out like that. That's crazy.
They think they found this murder weapon, which I don't necessarily believe it is. Still, they're posting it on Twitter. Like, when did the FBI? It almost feels like the FBI is like trying to be a media organization. Like, is this how the FBI used to work?
No, not at all. The FBI was actually on the other side of that spectrum of not telling anybody anything ever, to now running their mouths and a little bit over transparent. And my thing is the oversharing of information on social media is not how you govern FBI operations. I know that they're one of their pushes is to be more transparent, which, hey, I have no problem with, but you can't signal your investigative intent or your investigative direction when you don't have anybody in custody yet, right? That's not good stuff. And everything you say and do, it gives the subject, adversary, whatever the situation is, it gives them foreknowledge and it helps them develop countermeasures. And that's why I think that all that early tweeting was based upon emotion and adrenaline.
Exactly.
And it showed kind of a lack of maturity on some of these things.
Yeah,
and,
that was not something that Kash Patel should have did. Especially not knowing that was confirmed. You don't give out information that you don't have confirmed, especially when you're still investigating.
I hope they get better at it, but I haven't seen it improve because I've seen more types of tweeting like that. But I wish they would get off the social media and let some of the media experts handle this. The director shouldn't be putting that stuff out himself.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. The director should not be putting stuff out like that.
Like immediately blasting out tweets. We got him. We don't got him. We got him. We don't got him.
Right.
We think we got him. Here's the picture of him, but maybe that's not him. Here's the rifle, but the 30-06 story makes 0 sense. And so the FBI, who's supposed to be the credible source on this, is like back and forth. And then now nobody believes anything the FBI says, but they also sort of, they have a narrative. And so it's like, I feel like you're going to continue to investigate this if, let's say, they figure out, oh, maybe this is actually a different caliber weapon. Maybe the shot came from a different spot. We don't know. I'm tinfoil hatting here a little bit. How do they walk that back now?
Well, it's hard. You can't. You can't, right? Because you've already come out and said what your investigative findings and direction and your investigative intent is, right? Now you got to come back and say basically what we meant to say was, right? And that's a credibility buster, because one of the things I used to tell my folks, Nate, all the time was the FBI has very small margins for error because it was an organization based on excellence. Not that it didn't make mistakes at times and do some stupid things, but it was basically an exercise in excellence when the FBI was on scene. A bunch of folks showed up. They were zipped up tight in suits, professional, squared away. If they weren't the best at something, they were really damn good. And that's what everybody came to expect. So when the FBI has a flub or a stumble, it's really notable and it's not acceptable to the public.
And it's a track record now, right? Because if we think about it, like the Hunter Biden laptop story, why'd the FBI cover that up? And then you get to the Trump shooting and all the weird stuff with what's going on with that. And then you get to the Epstein files.
That's what I was saying.
And then you get to the Charlie Kirk
all looks similar.
It's like all of these things, the public continues to lose faith in the FBI over and over and over again. And I don't know how.
All these cases with like the Trump assassination, the shooting of the school, the freaking Charlie Kirk thing, like all these things seem very similar. All these like trans type of deals and trans aggression and this and that, all the like major tragedies that had happened look very similar, and the way that they were handled are very similar. It's just it adds on to the fishiness.
How do you reverse out of this? If you're the FBI director, you got to you got to do something now, because I just saw even Kash Patel just came out like 2 nights ago and was like, you know what? Now we're actually reviewing all the potential of a second shooter, of multiple people involvement. We're keeping the idea open for another weapon. So they almost like walking everything back to leave. But I mean, at that point, to what you just said, the credibility issue is now no one believes you. The American public doesn't believe anything you say now. How do you start to build that back?
Well, you have to do it by action, right? It's action and results, and that's it. And you keep your yap shut, you get the job done, and you do it in what I like to say is in a skilled, objective, apolitical, and professional manner. You go out, you find these people, you bring them in, you build the case that's ironclad, right? And then you hand it over to DOJ.
Definitely what they should be doing.
Right. That's the model. And what they've started doing instead is looking for that social media approval of what they're doing, right? And you can't run. Look, you as a former Army Green Beret would never run a Green Beret operation over social media. Right?
No way.
No.
Right? That's just not going to happen. So the FBI is the same way. When we're conducting investigations and operations, we shouldn't be telegraphing certain things over social media. And now they have to dig themselves out of a kind of a deficit situation from the early tweeting, the erroneous tweeting, and now you have, whatever they're talking about now. Well, maybe it was this, that, and the other. They're getting that off social media, and you're chasing social media approval instead of using the FBI's tried and true, very well practiced.
Why are they putting out on social media? That don't make no sense to me. No sense to me that they're putting it out on social media like that.
They were the best manhunters in the world. And then we started doing other stuff and we lost that and we lost the edge. And that's where you see them now scrambling. And one of the things is I responded to a number of mass shootings, just terrible situations. And once you do that, you learn, okay, here's the battle rhythm. Here's the cadence. This is what has to be done. This is how it has to be handled. Yes, people are screaming for information, but we have to make sure we actually solve the crime, right?
Yeah.
And I think this current leadership team needs some folks around them that are going to help them do that because they don't know how to do it. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory fashion. They just aren't experienced. Cash Patel's, he was a lawyer, and Dan Bongino, Secret Service agent many years ago, worked protective detail. They never conducted those type of investigations, so they need some folks around them to help them with that. And I'm not sure they have the depth to do that right now.
Yeah, because it's very amateur the way that they're working.
It just feels
now.
very amateur.
It really is.
I mean, and to your point, when you're talking about chasing social media, it feels like YouTubers are doing a better job of maybe figuring some of this out, and the FBI is looking at the YouTube videos going, oh shit, maybe this story doesn't make sense. Now we got to figure out how to backtrack our way out of it. And that's like that. There's no reason that YouTubers should be the ones that are like, hey, FBI, this doesn't make sense. And the FBI goes, oh,
that's
shit,
true.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, I'll tell you what, Nate, there was always a progression of when we would get to a situation, a crisis. It was what did you know? When did you know it? Who did you tell? And what was your role?
Yeah.
Right? That was always
Makes sense.
Kind of, okay, what's going on? And then you would relay info. And now that seems to be broken where you have the FBI director himself posting things on social media. From the shooting the other day that happened, they were showing that stripper clip of I think they were 7.62 rounds, they looked like. With the anti-ice written on it, the ice shooting.
Yeah, that is such bullshit.
Why are you tweeting out pictures of evidence?
Yes.
Why are we doing that? Right. And that's what I'm saying. It's kind of odd and it's a departure.
I want to get into some other things I saw that just make no sense. And so I'm going to pull up a video here, and it says something about this is a hologram or whatever. That's not the point of all this video. The point is to show the crime scene. This is right after Charlie Kirk has been carried away, and it's actually a little bit after. So the crime scene here, as we're going to pull this up and look at this,
nobody's securing the crime scene.
Nothing is secured. We'll play it here real quick. Nothing's secured. I mean, there's just
all of you have noticed online.
Let's turn this sound off because that's conspiracy. But like, there's just people everywhere just walking through the crime scene. Like nobody's like getting moved out of the area after an active shooter. Like what? And I'm not saying necessarily this is all the FBI, but that's well after the shooting. And is that normal? Let's say somebody that knows. Is that normal crime scene behavior where we're just
wasn't secured? That's what the point is. The point is it wasn't secured. It should have been secured immediately.
You contain. You render the area safe. You secure the crime scene because the FBI has to respond to the location, right? They have to get there with the proper people to do the crime scene processing. Yeah. You're going to have people that'll secure the scene. From what I understand, though, they only had 6 police officers for that event from the local PD.
I think it was less. I think it was only 3.
Okay, I heard 6. Yeah. So that's even worse, right? 3. Yeah. And then you had Charlie Kirk's own security detail and maybe some, I would call them ushers, right, from the school that might have been helping people seat and, you know, that kind of stuff. So when the event happened and everybody kind of went into shock because of what happened, no one thought to secure the crime scene.
Right, the whole crime scene was getting stomped on.
Very basic law enforcement or crime fighting activity that was just skipped right over. And by the time the Bureau got there and we were able to secure the scene or any other law enforcement got there and said, why are people walking around in there? You already have some crime scene contamination or crime scene degradation, right?
And we even see that from, I mean, and I'm not a tinfoil hat guy at all. Everybody knows that on the channel. I don't do that here. I try to look at everything objectively, but I watch videos of the Turning Point people just yanking down cameras, yanking SD cards out, like just completely. And the excuse was, well, we wanted to make sure we gave them to the FBI. Like, okay, maybe that seems odd, but I even talked to, I was telling you beforehand, I got a buddy that's over in the Utah County Sheriff's Department, and he said when the sheriffs arrived on scene, they basically said nothing had been contained, nothing had been done. They were still trying to clear buildings and figure out what the hell was even going on. You had this old guy who they initially thought was the shooter because he's got his pants down screaming that he's the shooter. And it's just, to me, it's so bizarre. And I'm not a law enforcement basher at all, but something this high profile in a mass shooting situation, that it was just like, oh, well, we'll figure it out. And even with the FBI, it just, when I talk about amateur, I don't think I told the viewers this. We were talking about beforehand when that post went out from Kash Patel. I was literally getting updated in real time from my buddy in Utah County Sheriff's Department, and I asked him. I sent him the picture of it, and I said, "You guys have the shooter?" And he goes, "We have no idea why the FBI is saying that.
Wow.
We have no one in custody. We have no leads. The only thing we know is it's someone wearing black." And the FBI is just saying that they have people. So to me, can you explain?
Bro, how is the FBI putting out that they have the shooter while the sheriffs, the Utah sheriffs, are sitting there like, huh? What are you talking about? They have no idea what they're talking about. They're like literally like see the post. They see the post themselves and like, what are they talking about? Like, they ain't communicating?
How is the FBI... Is there not any, are we not talking to the sheriff's department? Like, how is this even happening? I mean, I'm sure you probably don't know either, but.
Well, no, I could tell you in a scenario sense, there was a breakdown in communications, right? The FBI was running way ahead of the state and local partners, right? When you have somebody on scene that's from one of the local departments or sheriffs or, you know, state police or whatever, and they're sitting there saying, we have no idea what you're talking about. And the FBI is putting things out on the X platform. You have a problem, right? That information should be walked back to the partners to say, this is what we intend to release. So you can coordinate and make sure it doesn't have any negative effects to what any investigative steps are going on by any of the partners. And everybody knows this is what's going to be put out in the public. It shouldn't be a surprise. And it shows you, again, just a lack of
experience. A lack of experience. That's what it is. Or
I hate to say a lack of experience. I don't want to sound condescending, but it was more of a lack of experience than to say, we've got to clear this with the investigative partners first before we put it out on the X platform. And I think when you're chasing that social media approval, the adrenaline got to them. I've seen where we were doing things based on emotions now. And the FBI used to be the most emotionless organization there was.
It should be. Yeah. Right.
We were emotionless. People used to say, the robots are here, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that has a certain charm to it when you're doing stuff like this, Nate.
Yeah. And I mean, I just can't, like we were talking about, it's just like almost like, it's like they needed to be first. Like they need the win.
I can't
Like we need to show everybody
this investigation is
that we know what
this
we're
bad.
doing. Right. It's almost like an insecurity thing from.
I don't even know how they can.
There may be some.
I don't even know how they can convict Tyler Robinson. Like, they never show him with the gun. They never show him on top of the roof. Plus, the bullets doesn't match to a 30-06. The wound doesn't match to a 30-06. And have they tied that bullet to that gun? Have they done any of that? Have they did the ballistics? Where's the autopsy report? Where's everything at? You know what I mean?
Some of that going on from what I've seen, recently. I guess they brought in the co-deputy director, which is ludicrous. I've never heard of that, but they brought in a co-deputy director to sit with Dan Bongino.
What does that even mean, co-deputy director?
I don't know, because there's no such thing in the many years of the FBI. There's no such thing.
Okay, great.
Because the FBI director is the political appointee. The deputy director has always been a career FBI agent who becomes the operations chief for the entire organization.
But that's not what we have. And no knock on Dan Bongino, but he's
a
Secret Service and podcaster.
Yeah, not derogatory. They bring in this other gentleman. He's the attorney general from the state of Missouri, right? And now he's the co-deputy director. And from what I understand, he was actually the initial choice of the administration to become the FBI director.
I've heard this story that, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that he was supposed to be chosen, but they had accidentally said it was someone else, and so they were just like, "Nah, we're just going to go with it because we don't want to backtrack on announcing who we said it was going to be."
I don't know that. I just think cash one out is trying to make sure you keep the base happy.
That was a rumor that I heard. You know what I mean?
I think cash one out because you got to keep the base happy, and you got to make some promises come true.
Makes sense.
Whatever. But now this other gentleman's there. He was the initial choice for the administration, and now he's there as the number two of number two.
It's probably Cash Battalion needs assistance. That's probably why.
A little bit of insecurity. I don't know.
Well, I bet right now too, because the entire country is looking at him, the organization he's running, going, "What the hell are you guys doing?" I want to ask you, let me get your perspective on something like this. Okay. So I've been hardcore adamant as a guy who obviously well-versed in firearms, ballistics. I got a 30-06 right here. I just finished up a full ballistics test with obnoxious things that we shot. Cow femurs wrapped in 8 inches of beef, steel plates. Yep. I got a 1/2-inch steel plate. I want to see some of that too. We'll probably
play a little bit of that too.
This 30-06 basically blew right through. 1/2 inch. That's as thick as my finger. So what I want to ask you is, and I've been adamant from the very beginning, I do not believe this 30-06 story from 150 yards hit Charlie Kirk in the neck, and the round just stopped nicely in his neck. It doesn't seem physically possible.
That didn't happen.
Now, I'm not saying that there isn't possibility that this is like a drop gun or a decoy gun that's got the DNA and the FBI found it. But what I want to ask you is, as the FBI, you find this gun, and all physics and anatomy and everything says to you, this should not be the murder weapon. What would you do in that sense? Obviously, you wouldn't have tweeted out immediately, "This is the gun," before you probably had an autopsy report to confirm that. But like, what do you do in that situation where you're like, well, we got a potential murder weapon, but physically it doesn't make sense this could be a murder weapon? How do you work your way through that?
All right. First thing, there's no tweeting. Right, that was frowned upon.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's crazy.
What happened was
like
the FBI laboratory would show up. The FBI laboratory would show up and do a shooting reconstruction, and they would take and reconstruct the whole shooting environment.
Right.
And they would also try to collect any rounds or any materials that would have been maybe passed through or lodged anywhere in the ground somewhere. They would have gone to the rooftop. They would do all the laser shots and everything, looking at trajectory. They would have done all of those things, and they would have actually been they should have been part of the non-autopsy of Mr. Kirk to retrieve any bullet fragments so they can, and this hasn't been confirmed yet.
Autopsy stuff is weird too.
Yeah, that's very strange, but they should have taken that bullet and the bullet remains and matched it to the actual weapon itself.
Right.
To say this bullet was fired from this weapon and this is what, was the kill shot for Mr. Kirk, right? Yeah. That hasn't happened yet. All we're hearing about is DNA on the gun, DNA on a towel, DNA on a screwdriver. Okay, you matched him to the weapon, but the weapon has not been matched to the shot. That's what all of the FBI folks would have been figuring out when I was still there.
It could literally be his weapon. That could be his weapon, yeah. But that they can't prove that weapon is the one that made the shot. So who cares if that's his weapon? Somebody could have just planted it there. He was never even there with a weapon. I've never seen him there with a weapon. Anybody else have footage of him there with a weapon? Nobody. The camera from the top of the roof on the other side shows the whole roof. So if he had a weapon, you should be able to see it in that footage, right?
I would have been knee deep in their back pocket for all of those things as quickly as possible. They would have done the reconstruction. The FBI has very, very good post-shooting event investigators. Very good, right? So they would have been there doing that. And my operational technology guys would have been there collecting all of the social media, the audio, the video. They would have been putting it all together in a timeline.
Every business owner with people out in the field needs to know about connecting. It works? Oh, like you wouldn't believe it.
Right?
Yeah, you're
So
right.
all of that,
Yes.
Yeah, all that stuff would have been happening. And any gaps in the timeline, we would have been working as leads to fill in. Okay, we don't know this, or this. And then you go out to the field office and say, you must find these bits of information.
Yeah.
That's a very rough order of magnitude of what, you know, and they would have been doing interviews of all the people who were there.
That's what I'm wondering is why have we seen nobody? And I know,
and that
Chris,
goes back to why they haven't talked to any eyewitnesses. How come the feds or the federal government hasn't summoned any witnesses, hasn't talked to any eyewitnesses? There is eyewitnesses with live footage that they've took, their own footage. So why weren't those all rounded up and all investigated and questioned and all that? There's been a lot of people that came out and say they have footage and they were there and they're eyewitnesses and they were never even questioned about nothing ever.
I know people that were in the front row sitting in front of Charlie. I mean, literally that are, I mean, they've sent me actual videos from their footage, from their phones. Like I was standing right here. One of the guys was a 20-year law enforcement in Utah. And he said, nobody's talked to me or even asked me about this.
Yeah, see, those are gaps in the investigative procedure that we would have pushed on and said, we need this information. You must go out and interview these people. We would have also set up, and we did this during the Las Vegas shooting and subsequent shootings. We set up a portal.
How come they don't want to hear the eyewitnesses?
We'll take any format. You send in your still or your video footage, we'll take it. And then we use certain analytics on it and we put it in a timeline, we standardize it. They'll enhance videos and things of that sort, right? So
it seems like they have no interest in collecting eyewitness testimony or video, right?
All that stuff's going on at the same time while we're also looking at other investigative avenues of who else could have been involved. Was this part of a bigger shooting conspiracy? Are other people in danger? Things like that would have been going on as well as, you know, collection of social media, all that stuff, right? All the things they're doing, but it just seems kind of disjointed right now.
Can you, I want to talk a little bit about, and maybe you know, maybe you don't know what the legalities of some of this stuff. It's not just the FBI that's put out weird stuff. Turning Point has been part of the problem too, because they put out that, you know, initial post that the surgeon went through, and he said that, you know, the man of steel neck theory, which I just showed you guys.
Surgeon's just gonna tell
you know why the man of
what?
steel story doesn't work either, because a 30-06 cuts right through steel like butter too, guys. But they put that out, and then there's also Turning Point puts out that, oh well, actually there's a medical examiner report, and it hit him in the spine, and it tracked down into his heart.
Even if he was a man of steel.
And then now there's one today that says, oh, there's no autopsy. And then there's one today that says, actually, there was an autopsy proving that a 30-06 round severed the spinal cord, but somehow didn't create an exit wound. Right. What's the actual legalities on, I don't know if you would call it HIPAA or what. Can a surgeon or a medical examiner just tell a random person from Turning Point this type of stuff like 2 days after a shooting? Or would they have to do like through the next of kin? Because it just seemed very bizarre to me that the Turning Point as an organization is just like, yeah, we talked to the surgeon. It's like, did you? Is that something? I don't know if you know that for working with the FBI and crime scenes, and it's very odd.
Yeah, a couple of items there. Once you're dead, you have no more right to privacy.
Okay.
Ooh.
Interesting.
So once you're deceased, your right to privacy.
Once you're deceased,
ceases,
you have no more right to privacy.
And it's part of an investigative.
I didn't know that.
And who I fault here, and I hate to say it, but I fault the FBI for not wrangling everybody together and saying, hey, we're going to do this in a controlled manner. This is going to be something that part of our investigative approach. We need everybody to please shut up. Right?
Right.
Let's get together and do this. And they haven't, it appears they haven't done that. And I think
it doesn't look that way at all.
Right. And you're looking at some emotion here too. You know, the whole, it was a miracle and all that nonsense. Okay. All right. maybe it was. I don't know, but like you said, a 30-06 round. That's not happening.
No.
Okay.
No, yeah, exactly, Chris.
That's
We're all saying that. Everybody who knows anything about a 30-06 or ballistics is just rolling their eyes, going like, "I've got this 30-06 right here that shot. We killed a moose with it. It shot through and through moose bone. It's like what
exactly?
What
and at 100, at 150 yards,
right?
It's not
far.
Yeah,
people. I've heard people say, "Well, maybe the bullets slowed down." No. That's not.
That's what I keep, and I'm thank you for that. We have just somebody who's seen, I'm sure, plenty of crime scenes and seen a lot of gunshot wounds and things like that. It just doesn't work.
But here's another one, Nate. I tried to explain to some people: the throat is not a target, right? The throat is not the primary target. When you're looking at this, you're looking at head or you're looking at center mass generally, right?
Correct.
I mean, I'm walking into your world a little bit, right?
No, you're not wrong.
I think what happened is this guy, everybody said it was a professional. This guy wasn't a professional. I think what he did was he miscalculated. He was off site a little bit. He miscalculated distance or whatever he did. Maybe his scope was off a little bit or whatever. But he still
it probably was because it was 4 inches too far back on his rifle. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not absolutely. This setup wasn't great either, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that he still. I hate to say he got lucky, but he ended up with a fatal shot on Charlie Kirk anyway, right? And so he wasn't a professional. But what I did tell people is you could see that the event was pre-planned.
Yes,
it was pre-planned, right? Yep. But he was not. He was by no means a professional.
If your child has used Roblox, you might be owed significant.
100% true.
Here's what's crazy, Chris. If the FBI doesn't put that Mauser 30-06 narrative out right out the gate, the actual story is not that unrealistic. If I can say, hey, maybe he's using a 300 blackout or a 5.56 or a 22 or something like that. Now all of a sudden I'm like, well, this narrative actually makes sense. Like I could see this whole thing planned out. But then you throw in this crazy and I've watched footage from before and after.
Yeah,
I cannot prove to me that he went to the top of that roof with a 44-inch 30-06 in his jeans or in his little tiny backpack or anything like that.
Yep, that's exactly what I was saying. There's no way. You don't see him at any point with a rifle that big going anywhere near that building or that roof or on the roof or anywhere. You don't see that rifle nowhere.
So we got big problems with that too. I want to get to a question we got from one of the viewers right now because it's a good one. It says, honest question, Joe Saunders. Thanks, buddy. Honest question. I grew up understanding the FBI, the original G-men, were world renowned for the scientific empirical approach. If they are now a politicized civil servant organization, could they find their way back? I think that's a good one.
Yeah, a great question. And I wrote about this in my book that you were nice enough to talk about. This is where the FBI ran off track. The culture declined. The leadership environment declined, and they departed from some of the operational practices that, as this gentleman said, were empirically tested. I mean, this is how it works, right? And with the FBI's problem right now is they suffer from a cultural decline. The FBI used to have a certain culture to it. When I joined, there were still guys that wore fedoras to the office. They were the old guys, right? And those are the guys I learned how to be an agent from, and they would have They just didn't tolerate any nonsense. And we were new guys, and they said, look, we'll kill you if you do anything to embarrass the FBI, right?
Yeah.
And that was the mentality. And that culture went away. When Jim Comey and those guys came in, they tried to corporatize the FBI. They wanted to run it like Google and Netflix. They were sending people out to these places. We started having climate surveys and this kind of shit.
Yeah, that started happening in the military and special operations at the exact same time.
And look at all the benefits it brings, right? Yeah, outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing happened to us at the same time frame, so I could see that.
So we were starting to suffer from that cultural erosion. And in the leadership environment, we were breeding generations of timid, scared.
I want to show him shooting.
We're doing that too in the military.
I want to show him shooting the 30-06 here in a second.
Oh my God, it was terrible. They were more interested in being liked than they were with being effective operational managers. They wanted good climate surveys and all this stuff. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, what the hell are we doing here? And we used to get in arguments about it. You know, I'd say, are you kidding me? There are people who worked for me who got terrible climate surveys. And I would say, I don't give a shit. They're absolutely phenomenal.
Okay, yeah, that's enough
operational
of the FBI
leaders.
story here.
I don't care if they get the, frowny face or whatever that nonsense is. I don't care. They do a great.
Haven't seen it. The
let's check
the
out
ballistic
the
text
of the
we did
30-06,
and I'll show you guys. This is cow femur. Cow femur, guys. Cow femur is like this thick, and it's rock hard because it's holding up a 2,000-pound animal.
What 30-06 does to a cow
5
femur.
inches of beef.
See if a neck bone could stop that.
This is what it did to the cow femur, guys. We got to listen to me.
Just wrapped up finishing our own 30-06 ballistic testing video that we're going to be putting out on YouTube.
That's just the femur.
Because I keep telling you guys how just utterly ridiculous this 30-06 narrative is, and we decided to do what these other ballistic videos haven't done, where they just show, shooting like a ballistic gel head and a little bit of bone. No. We shot ridiculous shit. We shot cow femurs wrapped in 6 inches of beef. We shot 3.
Tired of feeling priced out of real estate? Lennar delivers quality new homes in the Seattle area at a price you can.
1/8-inch steel plates, 1/2-inch steel plates, just to show you guys what a 30-06 can really do. But don't take my word for it. Here's a little teaser before we put the YouTube video out.
Boom! Oh my god!
All right, here we go.
Oh my god! Hold on, I want to see that
plates,
again.
1/2-inch steel plates, just to show you guys what a 30-06 can really do. But don't take my word for it. Here's a little teaser before we put the YouTube video out.
Oh my! That shit got destroyed.
All right, here we go.
Destroyed. Incinerated.
This is retarded. Whoever just said this,
Damage to
you're dumb as fuck.
Literally snapped in half and then
snapped it in half.
Our neck that we built.
Oh my god, that shit demolished it.
Whoever just said
that
cow bone isn't more dense than human bone. Do you... I don't know.
They hold 3,000 pounds.
Sometimes
2,000 pounds. Right.
Sometimes I don't even know why I deal with this. Do you not know why elk and cow and moose bone is far denser than a human bone? Does people not understand that?
I don't think they do, Barry.
Because the animal weighs 2,000 fucking pounds, and it has to be able to withhold that much weight. Imagine putting 2,000 pounds on your back on a squat rack. What would happen? Your skeleton would snap in half because your bones aren't that dense.
Yep.
I love you guys, but some of you are legitimately retarded. Not all of you, like the 99.9% of you, but some of those comments I see, and I just
I think you just starts reading through
your
his
mom was
comments
definitely
now.
taking too much Tylenol when she was pregnant.
Let's see what else we got here. Oh, and I want to see if Candace Owen has any new shorts or anything. That's the last one. Yeah, let's go through this again.
Okay, I didn't want to leave you
So
guys
you
on a
guys can see
crazy
it.
weekend cliffhanger. I needed to get that information out as soon as possible. Obviously, you can probably see that I received some information, a communication, which answered a lot of questions that the public has had about the story, or rather the non-story that we are getting from the feds. The push that Tyler Robinson is this lone shooter, which they're trying to establish as a fact. Some of the burning questions that we had, okay, well, if he turned himself in, how did he also not confess? I now have the answers to that. The main point, the reason why this information came to me, is because there's a narrative being spun right now by the media that Tyler Robinson is or was suicidal. That is not true. And that's a very scary thing when
Dang, so now they're trying to say that Tyler Robinson is suicidal now that they have him in solitary confinement. That is a little bit scary. And after we play the whole thing, we're going to go back and read through the text that she has on the short and let you guys see what she's trying to say under the lines. All right.
suddenly they're saying he's suicidal and, you know, he's in solitary. and he's not suicidal. So that was the reason why this information urgently came to me. Obviously, I know a lot more, and I'm going to share it with you guys on Monday. I just wanted to vet some of the things that I heard, ask some more questions from people that would know, and just to make sure everything I say is above board. And obviously this lead led to more leads, and I want to give people a chance to respond. This is crazy. Nothing more that I can say. This is very serious. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that what we are being told has gone on is just not so. And yeah, this is really kind of going to begin, I think, to answer a lot of questions and many more questions that need to be asked. So I just wanted to let you know that what they're telling us about him being suicidal is not true. Okay, I didn't want to leave you guys on a crazy weekend cliffhanger.
Okay, let's check out this. Let's read what we got here, right? She says, I want to break this news immediately because it feels important, and I think if I don't break it immediately, something bad might happen. Okay. She says, I hope I have earned the trust enough of the people to believe me when I say that I have verified this information but cannot reveal the source. All right, let's go to the next one.
I needed to get that information out as soon as possible. Obviously, you can...
Tyler Robinson is not suicidal. The entire narrative that was placed in the media about him having been suicidal is completely fictional, as are many other aspects of what we have been told.
Probably see that I received some information, a communication, which answered a lot of questions that the public has had.
Okay, his father having turned him in after a confession is also a complete fabrication, fiction. That's kind of the reason why he's pleading not guilty. If you turn yourself in, you would turn yourself in with a confession, right? So they don't have a confession, so that means he kind of didn't turn himself in, right? Because he's pleading not guilty. So that right there, that is a contradiction and doesn't make sense. She says, to the contrary, Tyler Robinson maintains his innocence and has never been to UVU. So he has never even been on that campus, never been there, never went to school there, nothing. There are absolutely zero photos or video that the campus can produce to the contrary. So they can't show him there and show his face there. They can't prove that he was there. Any videos that they've shown have been blurry, and you can't 100% show that that's him. And if they do verify that it's him, he doesn't have a weapon.
About the story, or rather the non-story that we are getting from the feds, the push that Tyler Robinson is this lone shooter, which they're trying to establish as a fact. Some of the burning questions that we had, okay, well, if he turned himself in, how did he also...
And she says, not that we needed further substantiation, not that we needed sorry, I can't read for shit. Not that we needed further substantiation, but Tyler Robinson did not author those Discord messages, which we already know, right? We already put that together. I would like to gain stress that he has never been to UVU campus, and I need to confirm this later. I believe he was around the campus on that day. I will have more on this later, but I wanted to immediately publish that the Tyler Robinson suicide narrative plus the dad that did the right thing after realizing his son was guilty is a federal concoction. So in other words, he didn't confess. That's why he's pleading not guilty. They said that he turned himself in. No. When you turn yourself in, that usually means you confess to doing something, and that doesn't seem to be the case.
So not confess. I now have the answers to that. The main point, the reason why this information came to me, is because there's a narrative being spun right now by the media that Tyler Robinson is or was suicidal. That is not true. And that's a very scary thing when suddenly they're saying he's suicidal and, you know, he's in solitary, and he's not suicidal. So that was the reason why this information urgently came to me. Obviously, I know a lot more, and I'm going to share it with you guys on Monday. I just wanted to vet some of the things that I heard, ask some more questions from people that would know, and just to make sure everything I say is above board. And obviously this lead led to more leads, and I want to give people a chance to respond. This is crazy. Nothing more that I can say. This is very serious. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that what we are being told has gone on is just not so. And yeah, this is really kind of going to begin, I think, to answer a lot of questions and many more questions that need to be asked. So I just wanted to let you know that what they're telling us about him being suicidal is not true. Okay,
that was heavy, bro. That was heavy. For her to push that out as fast, even in a short, bro, she normally doesn't do that. And it feels like she really needed to do that. That's crazy. Let's see if we could find any more stuff on Charlie Kirk. Autopsy or not, I don't think we heard
Welcome back
anything
to the
about
channel, everybody. And if things couldn't get any stranger in this whole Charlie Kirk situation debacle at this point, well, they just spiraled into complete bizarro world, as there's reports of an audio recording from dispatch that have come out saying that no autopsy was performed on Charlie Kirk. Essentially, Erica Kirk came in and just signed the death certificate and off they went. But then also another report that came out today that in fact there was an autopsy done and has all the details of the autopsy report in it. And I'll tell you guys up front, I have no idea what to believe at this point. I don't know what's real anymore. What I will say is there's huge problems with both of them.
Do they have an autopsy or not? Did they perform an autopsy or not? Which one is it? You can't say, oh yeah, we have an autopsy and this is exactly what we want everybody to know. Or you can have an autopsy from the surgeon or the coroner. Like, where is it? Like, and what coroner did the autopsy?
These scenarios with no autopsy being done, which we're going to cover and get into. And then there's also really big problems with what this autopsy report says. All right, so first thing we're going to do is check out the audio recording of this dispatch message. We're going to go through the no autopsy report story first, and then the autopsy report second. See if we can figure this thing out together. All right, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps the channel. And let's jump into it. Here we go. All right, first thing we're going to do, listen to this dispatch recording. And guys, I cannot confirm if either of these things are real. If the dispatch recording is real, if this new post of the autopsy report is real, can't confirm anything. I'm just going based off of what we're being provided, story by story. All right, so here is the dispatch audio where the dispatchers talk about how there was no autopsy report.
So I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
Oh, okay. Can you just do a field clip documenting that?
I'm sorry, 10-9?
Can you just add a step to the case documenting that there was no autopsy?
Yeah, 287, I'll declare the hospital. I need an officer at Timpanogos Hospital to come stage in the emergency room bay.
Jesse just told me that he just got on the phone and Charlie's wife is coming to Signature and they're bringing a car over here for arraignment.
Charlie's wife is coming to land at Signature, you said?
Sir, and Jesse's going to go to Duncan right now and pick up a car for her.
Okay, I'm a little confused because that's what Corey just said. They said they're landing at Duncan, so I don't know where they're landing, but we will just kind of play it by ear, I guess, best that we can.
All right, so there you go. According to this dispatch message, there was no autopsy done. Next of kin came in, signed the death certificate, and off they went. Now, again, I have no idea if this is true or not, but this would be not only massively problematic, but also very illegal. Well, actually, I'll show you the Utah code regarding this right now. All right, so here is the Utah code for handling a deceased body and the medical examiner and how all this works. All right, so there's some very, very important verbiage in here. Let's take a look. So it says, upon notification under section 26B-8-206 or investigation by the medical examiner's office, the medical examiner shall, okay, this is an incredibly important word for those who don't know legal speak, right? Legal jargon. Shall means is required to, must. Assume jurisdiction over a deceased body if it appears that, and then here's conditions. So what this is saying is the next of kin does not get to decide these things. the medical examiner does. So there's no, religious exemption or something like that, some weird thing that happened here, all right? If one was by violence, gunshot, S, or accident. Well, yeah, that meets. 2, sudden death while in apparent good health. Meets that. We move down to 4. Another one, occurred under suspicious or unusual circumstances. So the problem with this no autopsy report story is this is not legal. The medical examiner would be in huge trouble. And you got to keep in mind, there's very specific reasons why they are legally required to do an autopsy. The main one being, especially in a murder case, right, is they need the evidence. You got to have the autopsy evidence to take this to trial, because if you try to show up to trial as the prosecutor and say that this 22-year-old kid by himself got on a roof using a 30-06 and take this shot and the bullet didn't even pass through, didn't even make it through his neck, but you don't have any autopsy proof to back any of this up, guess what? This kid's going to walk free. You got nothing now. So it's hard for me to believe necessarily there's no autopsy, but again, stranger things have happened. Also, very hard to believe any reporting coming out of anyone, even Turning Point USA, right? We got that weird Man of Steel surgeon's report that the surgeon found the bullet just underneath the skin. Then we had a different medical examiner supposed report where the bullet hit his vertebrae and traveled all the way down into his heart. My questions are this, because I saw this interview put out by the gentleman who actually rode with Charlie to the hospital in an interview yesterday, which complicates things even more.
Is a foot from me. And his eyes are fixed, Megan. He's not looking at me. He's looking into eternity. He was already with Jesus. Absent from the body, present with the Lord, says the New Testament.
So this guy, let's see what he brings to the table. He was
that's
there.
Obviously horrible. I feel for this man for sure. However, what he says there is he's very clear that Charlie Kirk was dead in the car. He was already dead. Now, he can't legally pronounce anyone dead. You have to have the actual doctor or medical examiner do that at the hospital. But if he showed up to the hospital completely dead, no vitals, no nothing, no surgeon is operating on a dead body. So where did this weird surgeon story come from? The surgeon found this? What was the surgeon operating on if he was already dead? And then if there's no autopsy, how did you possibly know the second story of where this bullet was or have it traveled down the neck into the heart? Because you obviously didn't open him up. You would have waited for the autopsy to do that. So the no autopsy story, while it could 100% be true, very, very odd for one, and then also not legal too. All right, so we have the non-autopsy story, and again, how do we even know what's true anymore? Like, we got one story is non-autopsy, another story is autopsy. I don't know, right? But let's look at the actual new post that came out today stating that there was an autopsy done and has the information of the autopsy in it. All right, so then you have this post from Died Suddenly. Again, guys, I have no idea if any of these accounts are legitimate or if these posts are legitimate at this point, but we got conflicting stories here. Autopsy done, not done. So here's the it was done that just came out. All right, so new. An autopsy was performed on Charlie Kirk's body, and the death certificate was issued based on the initial hospital findings, and then Charlie's body was transferred to the medical examiner for the full autopsy the next day. Now, this is probably the way it should happen, so I'm inclined to believe that this is most likely true, but again, I have no idea. The standard procedure in Utah when ensuring the timely release of the body for the funeral while preserving forensics analysis under Utah law, autopsies are required for deaths resulting from violent homicide, like we just showed in the Utah code. All right, a detailed autopsy report is due mid to late October and will account for toxicology, histology, and final reviews. And here's where we get into the big problem with this story. Preliminary details have been disclosed, confirming a single 30-06 gunshot wound to the neck that severed critical arteries and the cervical spine, leading to rapid blood loss and death. The other details in the report from authorities prior to closing the case. All right, and so here's the huge problem when we talk about that. If that's what the autopsy report shows, well, now it doesn't match the surgeon's message or the track down his spine and entered his heart version. Now we have, now what we have is that a single 30-06 round penetrated his arteries and severed that means cut clean through his spine, which would make sense. But that doesn't make sense because there was no exit wound. So what you have to believe in this autopsy report is that this 30-06 round, and guys, I actually did my own full ballistics tests with 30-06, and we tested some absolutely ridiculous things, not just like a human gel head. We tested cow femurs wrapped in 8 inches of meat. We tested literal steel plates, 3/8 inch steel, 1/2 inch steel. And actually, I'll show you a little preview of that video right here.
All right, here we go.
Right through the steel, right through the femur, right through the bone, right through the meat.
Literally snapped in half, and then our neck that we built, that was nice, solid, thick, 4 or 5 inches of meat, absolutely obliterated.
That was like 3 to 4 inch cow femur. It's hard as a rock and dense. It's got to hold a multiple 1,000-pound animal up, wrapped in like 8 inches of meat. That 30-06 just blew through it like butter, like it's nothing. So what this autopsy report says, a 30-06 blew through his neck, severed his spine, and then just stopped with this little 1/8 inch.
Yeah, at this point, we can't believe anything they say, bro, because they already put out like 3 or 4 conflicting stories. It don't make no sense.
Less of skin right here behind the spine. That's where the round stopped. Because if it severed his spine, it went clean through. But there's no exit wound. That doesn't work. That doesn't work anatomically. Okay, human skin.
Where's the bullet and where's the
doesn't
autopsy?
somehow stop the round. So because of that, this makes me inclined to believe that this isn't true. So what's the truth?
Well, welcome to the stream, though, Ivy Taylor. Yeah, this really doesn't make no sense.
Guys, I don't think we're going to get it. I don't think we're ever going to know, obviously. It's getting so ridiculous. But they have to have, I'm assuming, an autopsy report to, again, and this is where the complications get, because, like I said before, if you were to put this kid up on the stand with no autopsy report, no ballistics report, and no proof of anything, which honestly, I still don't think they have real proof of anything. Most of it's all circumstantial at this point. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to actually convict this kid based off of the evidence provided, unless the FBI has a ton of stuff we just don't know, which could be the case. Now you add in potentially no autopsy report. Nah, dude, that kid's walking free. Unless they just make stuff up. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I believe there's no autopsy report.
With the current evidence, Tyler would be going home, bro. They could not convict Tyler of that just by watching him climb up on a building. Where's the gun? Where's the bullet? Where's the gun that's matched to the bullet that was shot? You got to match the gun to the bullet that was shot. You can't just say, oh, that was his gun, but that gun needs to be matched to the shot. Like the bullet that they took out of the ground or body or whatever needs to be matched to that barrel of that gun to make sure that that's the gun that fired that bullet. You know what I mean? That hasn't happened. Nothing has happened. It's just all crazy.
Really makes sense. But at this point, stranger things are happening, guys. So can we confirm there was an autopsy done? There wasn't? I don't know. You guys tell me. Help me out.
Wow.
Somebody find some proof of something at this point, because again, that dispatch audio message, unless it's AI generated, I'm going to assume it's real, but that doesn't mean the dispatchers necessarily knew that. It said he hadn't gone in for an autopsy. Does that mean that he went in an autopsy after that, but he hadn't yet? I mean, who knows? I don't know, guys. Again, it's all just super confusing.
Possibly.
I'm also, guys, I know you guys, I appreciate you guys just blowing my inboxes up with, videos and theories and asking me to cover stuff. I know the big one you guys want me to cover is this lapel mic gun theory, which I'm going to do in the next video. I'm trying to keep up with everything that's happening, and everything's all this new.
Trying to keep up with the conspiracy theories. Now they're saying that it could have been a lapel mic, and the mic could have shot him, like how Israel did with the Al Qaeda and all them with the pagers. Yeah, so that's another theory that is out there that could have possibly been.
Information coming out. I'll try to have that one out tomorrow, and then we also, guys, we're going live tonight at 5 with one of the former top heads of the FBI, Chris Paiota, and
baby boy. Okay, I'll be right there in a minute. Give me 1 second. I'm live.
Hey, guys.
Okay? I love you guys.
Stop me.
Hey, get out of here, bro.
Go away. Hey, trying to calm down.
Get out of here, bro. My baby boys. I got 3 baby boys under 6. I got a 6-year-old, 3-year-old. Well, no, actually a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old now. Yeah, because he just turned 3 today. No baby boy, not him. My nanos.
And he's going to break down how he thinks the FBI has done so far in this. So that should be a super interesting one. Also celebrating 300,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much. So we're going to be doing that tonight, 5 p.m. Pacific time on normal live.
Let's see. I kind of want to listen to Candace's last video because I really want to look back at what she was saying. Let's see videos. Yeah, it is. They're crazy, but they motivate me to be a good person, you know. Charlie Kirk expressed concerns. Yeah, we watched that already. Okay, this is the one I wanted to see.
David, what you have done.
All right, you guys, it is Wednesday, and I have a lot for you today. Because you're not going to be surprised to hear that the FBI is FBIing. That's what they do. And that's what they want to happen with the Charlie Kirk case. Of course, this was inevitable. I got to tell you all about that.
Breaks down
also,
lot, right?
I want to open up to you guys about this overwhelming sense of doom that came over me about 10 days prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination. The story's kind of unbelievable, but I think it's important to share, especially with the way that they're traveling here, the FBI is traveling, trying to shut this case down. And it is also somewhat related to another explosive story that I have for you today, because do you remember Thomas Matthew Crooks? Probably not, because oddly, the feds told us that, hey, don't even worry about that 20-year-old who got up on a rooftop and tried to assassinate President Donald Trump, right? That story just got buried. Well, today we have some exclusive information about him, never before seen footage of Matthew Crooks, and it's going to be just the beginning of our coverage regarding what we know. So welcome back to Candace.
All right, let's go. Shout out to Candace. You know? If you guys haven't subbed to her, make sure you guys go sub to her.
Okay, so let's start with the breaking news. I don't even know if it's considered breaking news when it comes to the feds. Like, I don't think it's breaking news. I think it's just the news. This is what they do. Well, I have it now on a very well-placed authoritative source that the FBI is putting an absurd amount of pressure right now on the authorities in Utah and also the rest of the government in Utah to come out and to say that the Charlie Kirk case is closed. They want it over.
Wow. Why would the feds be pushing Utah to close this case unless they were trying to cover up something? There's so many contradictions. There's so much evidence that needs to be brought forward. There's so much eyewitnesses that haven't been investigated. So why are they pushing to close this? They don't even really, technically, they don't even really have any evidence that it was him. They can't place him there. They can't place him there with the gun. They can't place the gun to the shot. They can't, it don't make no sense.
Want Charlie's assassination to be officially ruled lone gunman. It was a lone gunman that did that. Nobody else is involved. Now, why would they? Why would they want that? Right? What are they saying, at least to the authorities? Are they saying like, this is the reason? And I'm sure they're not coming out and being honest or saying something that might ring truer to us, the public, which would be them saying, well, we know who did this and we want to protect those people, so close the case. What they're actually saying instead is essentially, if you don't close the case against Charlie Kirk and rule it a lone gunman, then it might mess up our prosecution against Tyler Robinson. That feels a little bit to me like moral blackmail. Hey, man, we're not hiding anything, but we've got this guy, Tyler Robinson. If you don't close this case, then it might harm our chances of locking this guy up. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I am
he
sure
wouldn't be able
that
to
they
be
are
convicted.
being just moral. I'm sure they're telling the truth to the authorities. Now, I want to remind you guys, we should take a look at their current case against Tyler Robinson to see if we should accept this narrative, because currently there is absolutely no video which shows Tyler Robinson firing the weapon or even taking aim at Charlie Kirk. In fact, the individual who filmed the footage of the shooter on the roof, the lone video that exists of the shooter on the roof, also told me that he doesn't think that Tyler Robinson is the guy. So how's that going to work for an eyewitness account? When he reported the shooter on the roof to Utah on the campus, he was clear that the person was wearing an entirely different outfit than the ones that they're currently trying to claim that Tyler wore on that day. Remember, Tyler was just supposed to be wearing a t-shirt and some jeans. He says, no, he was in tactical gear. The person that I saw was in tactical gear. Also, that eyewitness told me that that gun doesn't even match what I saw. And like I said, this individual definitively has experience with guns. He teaches people how to fire guns. So according to him and what he observed, if he's going to be brought into this court case that they're saying they want to, they want to bring charges against Tyler, he's going to testify and say, no, that doesn't look like the gun. That doesn't look like the person.
And these are eyewitnesses.
So how's this going to work? Also, according to the individual that told me this regarding the feds trying to push for this case closure, the feds don't even have any footage that explains how exactly the rifle in particular got onto the roof. That stuns me. That's stunning information, right? Because all we have is, well, in the indictment, he dropped onto the roof at 12:15 p.m.
All right. Give me 1 second, chat. I'm gonna go sing my baby boy happy birthday.
Tyler Robinson just dropped onto the roof.
Be right
I
back.
guess in our minds, we assumed on the basis of the picture that they released the sole picture or set of pictures from the same moment of him walking up the stairs. We assumed that he, like I said, stanky-legged it, the whole stanky leg all the way up onto the rooftop. That was our perception. But it turns out, according to my source, they don't know how the rifle got onto the roof. That's interesting. How are we bringing this to trial? Now, regarding the bullet, the source says that it was too fragmented to match Tyler's rifle, so they don't have even the bullet. And let us not forget that Tyler himself has not confessed to anything. And that part also didn't make sense. They said they brought him in, Bill Ackman puts up $1 million, Tyler's dad gets the sheriff friend to come over, and they say he did it, and the police come and they bring him in. They bring Tyler Robinson in, but Tyler Robinson doesn't confess. So how did you arrest him? Does that make sense? How could you make an arrest if you didn't have a confession? You would have to have evidence, and the evidence can't be trust my dad, bro. You can't, if I just bring in a random person, if I say, oh, look, Skylar just committed this crime, and Skylar says, no, I didn't, and he doesn't confess, the police can't just make an arrest. You can just arrest Skylar. Nothing is making sense at all. It has not made sense from the very beginning, okay? And that's because the feds are involved. And I believe the feds know exactly what happened. In fact, I don't think it's a stretch from imagination when we examine history to assume that they maybe even had some foreknowledge. Not everybody, obviously, because some people are trying to get the information out and are trying to figure out what happened. But we know that there are people that are a part of that apparatus who are terrible human beings, who we do not want ruling over us, and yet they do. So I'm just curious how exactly they believe they are going to convict Tyler Robinson on this. Oh, you know what? It's probably the Discord messages. I forgot, silly me. The Discord, I forgot it was so explicit. How could we forget? Oh, Lance, wherefore art thou, Lance? Deny thy father and refuse thy name? And if thou wilt not, Lance, the bullet, me, my handprints, it was me. It was me, my love. I did everything. I carved it. Do you remember, my love, when I was carving the bullets? Yes. Exactly this time is when I did it. And these are the reasons, my MAGA daddy, my love, thou wilt not, my love. Cool story. Very cool story, feds. Kind of feeling like Tyler's going to get off because they've got really nothing but prints. And from my sources, it's not the only set of prints that are on that gun. In fact, the only thing that I have heard that made sense, which did not come from our government, did not come from the feds, did not come from the Utah government, but rather from the people that are on the ground who believe that actually Tyler was just told to walk and drop off his gun at a neighboring house. That for some reason just feels like that might be honest, and that was how he participated in this event. But we'll see, because I'm not going to let this go. So we'll see if the feds tell us to just dismiss it, as they always do. You know, rather relatedly, something that I wanted to tell you yesterday, we had showed you a clip of Charlie discussing our friendship and how he was feeling morally blackmailed over it. And in that same clip, he mentions a very fond memory that I have, that he was there when I met my husband, and he says it's a really fun story. And it is a fun story. It's actually a totally fun, crazy story of how I met my husband, because it was, I had something that came over me, and that's the only way I can describe it. And I get all of the conspiracies online when people were like, there's no way her and her husband got engaged after 18 days. That's exactly how it happened. Okay. I didn't know him. I never even saw his face 18 days prior. And I'm with Charlie. We're hitting the ground running. And I'm just like, I feel compelled that we must go to the UK. It was, when I say, the most overpowering thing ever. I was like, Charlie, we got to go to the UK. We got to go to the UK. We should go to the UK. We should go to London. And he's like, man, look, why? Why do you want to go to London? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like we're supposed to be there. I feel like we've got to be there for an event. And I did something that I had never done. I took Charlie Kirk's credit card, and I was like, I'm going to find flights and just book it. And then you just figure out, maybe it means we're supposed to start, Turning Point UK. If there's energy there, that was a part of his vision. He wanted Turning Point to be global, and he had people that were interested in the UK. And so I'm showing you this very old text message chain from that time between me and Charlie, where I never booked flights, looked at flights, but I booked these flights. And I was like, look, the flights are dirt cheap. From NYC to London, $450 in coach, or $1,200 in first class. And he's like, wow, let's book it. All right. And we booked the flights. And then suddenly I realized the reason that I had this overwhelming feeling to be there was because I was supposed to be my husband. And the only thing I can say is that it was an intuition. We describe it,
right,
that it had to have been God. We just had no
reason,
no other reason to be there. And then Charlie set up a speaking event with some people that had been interested. And sure enough, we were there to help Turning Point UK get set up. Anyways, this...
Are you looking at 4x4s on cars.com again?
I honestly don't know what you're talking about.
I was...
Overwhelming feeling. I had never experienced something like that since, until about a week before, or actually, 10 days before Charlie got assassinated. And so I'm going to explain that to you, because you guys who watch this podcast might have realized something, that we took the show off air randomly for the first couple of days in September. So I will describe to you exactly what happened. There at first was a elementary school shooting that happened at a Catholic school, and I was just concerned in a way that I had never felt so impacted. And I was going, something isn't right. Something is just not right. And I felt that there was some sort of an infiltration that was happening at schools. And the best way that I can describe it in a sentence is that I sensed that the danger wasn't stopping there, and that more was coming, and that I needed to take time, take a look at just the process of hiring people at the school that my children were going to attend. And I did just a cursory online search, and some messages I found, which were not written by a teacher at the school, but someone who was adjacent to some teachers at the school, gave me pause for concern. In fact, explicitly what it was a Polish underground symbol, like a Polish communist underground symbol that nobody would have recognized outside of people who know what it meant. And I just sort of went, okay, that's weird. I kept looking online, and strangely, I'm not kidding, and I'm going to show you these messages. I came across what looked to me like a bunch of people talking about bees.
Like, this shit really makes me want to get my kids homeschooled, just because of all the crazy stuff and the propaganda and everything that's put into the Department of Education. And I'm happy that Trump is closing down the Department of Education and rebuilding it, because there's something wrong with that shit, right? It's not right anymore. We are like the lowest in education, one of the lowest. I think we're like 20 something in the lowest in education in the United States. So it's really bad.
You're going, case, what do you, like literally bees in a way that the only way I can describe it to you is like they were speaking about bees, but they weren't speaking about bees. It was very coded. And I'm going, am I going crazy? Or do you think that all these people are really actually, quote unquote, bee farmers or saying that they farm bees? What is this lingo that I'm not understanding? Why do I feel like it's related to students? I didn't feel good about it at all. And I just sensed that we needed to get more involved, to go to the school, to ask about the process of hiring, to see if they needed more security. They were kind of giving up me the thing that teachers do now when you ask any questions about what happens at the school, which is they make you think like, why do you want to know? Like, we just do whatever we want to do. It's like, I don't know. My children are like 5 and 4, actually. Parents should, of course, we need to be more involved. Like, how did we get here? That we feel like we're crazy for asking questions about the hiring.
Parents getting involved with school. There should be nothing wrong with that. Or asking questions about how they're being hired and how they're being, how do you say it? Like being, what do you call it? Like how they would hire people, you know, the whole progress of hiring people and what that consists of, you know?
Practices at schools. And the feeling just didn't go away. I can show you this actually, because I was thinking like, I said to my husband, there is some weird underground, it's like I sense like imminent danger is coming. And for some reason, I feel like there is an underground that has emerged at schools and it's like related to bees. That's what I said. And I messaged multiple people about this, my sister. Here are a couple of more text messages to other people. You can look at the time frame here. This is 8:30, August 30th. This is September 1st when we went off air. September 2nd, we were off air. And I started talking about people that were discussing bees in a way that didn't make sense. I'm like, I don't know if this is drugs. I don't know what it is, but it's weird. And so in a sentence, I just said, there's imminent danger coming, okay? It is relating to a school. I think it's a communist underground, and I don't know why, but it has something to do with bees. Totally sensible thing to say to your husband.
You could be talking about
and
the
we need to hire
kids
more security.
if
And we
they're
did.
saying
We
bees.
hired more security that very week. And I was just frantic about it.
This is
We made the
crazy
decision
already, bro.
that we needed to homeschool immediately and started the process, pulled our kids out of homeschooling and starting to interview people. But it wasn't enough. Like, despite hiring more security, despite taking my kids out of school, I still had a sense of dread. The Tuesday night, the night before Charlie got assassinated, I had book club. And I felt like I needed to emphasize to people in book club that it was time to take their kids out of school. Like, take your kids out of school. Danger is happening right now. And I'm going to show you a clip. Obviously, this is all behind the paywall of what I said to people that are in the book club. Take a listen. I'm homeschooling my kids. I'm so excited. I'm like very excited I'm embarking on this. Recent decision. And it is just, I can't explain to you when a weight got lifted off of my shoulders, because I was like, I can't just speak about this. Like, we have to do it and show people that it can be done. And I'm so glad that my sister who did it first, because I was like, my sister, it was very difficult for her to do this. She's got to wake up super early, but seeing her do it made me go, my older sister, I was like, what is wrong with me? Of course I can do this. And again, this weight being lifted off of my shoulders of like, you don't get my kids. This whole system, this whole matrix, got to send your kids to school so we can what? Indoctrinate them mentally. In some schools, there's abuses that are happening, like, and I just have to take the risk and give you my child, like my small child, and then you're gonna gaslight me. This is what happened actually. I was like asking the school basic questions, like, because I was only gonna put them in like, you know, a little daycare program, pre-K program, and like I was like, you know, ask questions like, how do you hire people? And they were like, you don't get to ask those questions. What's wrong with you, Mom? Why are you so scared? I'm like, okay. Bye-bye. See you never. Don't make me think that I'm weird for being a mom. Okay? Don't make me believe or try to sell to me this idea that we're sharing these kids. These are your students, these are my kids. And if you don't understand that, then they can't be your students. That's it.
Yeah.
That was on September 9th, okay? Then came September 10th. Obviously, Charlie lost his life. And a few days later, I was told, and I sensed instantly that there was like a hive of people that were involved in this. I just knew it. And when it happened, I just went, oh my goodness. And my gut is telling me that this was the thing, that the dread that I sensed that was coming out of school. And I had no idea. I am not a flag person at all. And then someone told me, and I was astonished, that Utah recently, extraordinarily, did modernize their bee flag. I had no idea that the Utah state flag is a hexagonal beehive, right? And unbeknownst to me, that it has always been the beehive state. So in 2024, they modernized their flag, but they've always been known as the beehive state. And to be clear, it's not because they make honey. It's not because they have a high presence of bees. In fact, in terms of making honey or bee-related products, they rank number 24. It's actually the beehive state. It relates to the Mormon Church, the Church of Latter-day Saints. Early Mormon pioneers founded that state, and they liked the idea of a beehive working toward a common good. Now, if that sounds vaguely familiar or communist to you, the idea of worker bees, yes, that's where it's from. So this sort of doom that I had about an underground happening, I was just like totally freaked out. It's a Soviet symbol, like the idea of making everybody into a worker bee. And whether you're on the left or the right, you should understand where the public school system comes from. Okay, it is shaped by Soviet ideology. I tell people a must-read book is Inside the American Education System by Thomas Sowell. It is not left or right. He is just telling you how it all came together. The decline, the deception, the dogmas, and how they are programming our children. You cannot unread that book after you read it, because you realize there's no such thing as being too hawkish. They know how to get things in there and how to pull children away from their parents, as it was designed in the Soviet system, okay? Kindergarten, you're like, where does that word even come from? Well, it was established by the communists that tried to overthrow Germany and failed in 1848. Margaret Schurz's, her family came here, and those same communists wanted to make sure that they established kindergarten access to children. They then fought to make sure that we federalized the education system. These are the same people that pushed to make it so that homeschooling is not a thing, right? Like I said, the very reason they wanted to establish public education is because it is essential for radical ideology. They understand something that I think that we have maybe forgotten, which is that children are the most precious resource. The reason for that is because they are the future. One way or another, children are the future, okay? After Charlie's assassination, that feeling still did not dissipate, okay? I understood the imminent doom that I felt that was almost crippling was clearly related to that event, but I just know that all of these random lone shooter narratives that are being intentionally, we're being told that they're just lone shooters and then we don't really know anything else. I just feel it spiritually that these people are being programmed, and perhaps that is the reason why more often than not, they are being protected by our government. In other words, it is positively foolish for us to believe that the government just cannot tell us anything about these assassins. They wipe everything and they tell us nothing. Why would they do that? Yeah, that guy, they're always working alone. There's no online history that we can reflect on. What are you talking about? Which brings me to Thomas Matthew Crooks, because that's exactly what we were told or not told when on July 13th, 2024, a 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks climbs onto a roof and tries to assassinate President Donald Trump. Gratefully, Donald Trump did not die, but tragically, one of his supporters did, okay? A 50-year-old firefighter named Corey Comparatore lost his life trying to save his children. And then we were told virtually nothing. In fact, we were, and I'm laughing, it was so absurd. We were told,
I didn't know somebody died.
Iran did this. What? Because they were itching for war with Iran. Like, they're still itching for war with Iran, but like, that's what basically was a narrative that was established. They had some warnings that Iran was going to try to assassinate Trump, and we're going, what? Well, guess what happened? Somebody reached out to me because I have been obviously leading the forefront in investigating this lone shooter as it pertains to Charlie Kirk, because it's not a lone shooter. It's a hive. I feel it spiritually. And they said, look, actually, I had been able to scrape everything about Thomas Crooks before the feds got rid of everything. And it's shocking what you look. There is no way this person was not on the federal radar. Now, usually we go, was he on the left? Was he on the right? Because that's the bait. The bait is to make me as a conservative hate you if you were on the left. And if you were on the left, the goal is to make you hate Candace because it allows them to operate in broad daylight.
Yeah.
The reality of Thomas Crooks is going to be a story that we should get familiar with. He was at both on the left and on the right. He actually traded sides. He started actually as a Trump supporter. I'm going to show you, and again, to really impress upon you how much this person had to be on the federal radar. I have an 80-page document, which I'm thinking I'm just going to drop on my website tomorrow after handing it over to legal, of all the accounts that he made, all the statements that he made.
We got to check
and
her website
he was
out, too.
at first very angry against the left. Like, I mean, outwardly calling for the murder of people that are on the left. And there were videos that he was posting of himself shooting with no bullets in the gun in his bedroom. I'm going to show you one of those videos that's since been scraped. Don't worry, we blurred the weapon just, to keep things above bar here. Take a look. Now, if you're listening to this and you are on Spotify, essentially, or on Apple, what's essentially happening here is he's just in his room and there's no bullets in it, but he's practicing firing a weapon. And his online history, there's multiple videos that are like this, which I have. His online history shows he was extraordinarily violent. He was always calling for violence. And I can show you one of his comments that he made. This was a comment on a video, Trump humiliated on national TV. And he wrote to someone, haha, that's funny because I always believed being patriotic was lining up a bunch of socialist Jews like the ones that booed Trump and blasting their useless brains out with an AR. Well, to each his own. I mean, that's unbelievably violent. Again, another comment where he was commenting on a YouTube video. He wrote, I've noticed a lot of liars talking about the truth in this post. Well, let me tell you some truth. Every one of the Trump-hating Democrats deserves to have their heads chopped off and put on stakes for the world to see what happens when you F with America. So you go, okay, this guy was a Trump supporter. Then he does a radical transformation around 2020. And this had something to do with COVID. He got very angry at Trump and he was outwardly saying things like where people were reporting them on YouTube being like, this guy is absolutely insane. He is a maniac. He's a maniac. He was a maniac who was obsessed with Trump one way or the other. And then he went very much, obviously, which is the reason why he tried to assassinate him post-COVID. He just starts going completely crazy and he is explicitly researching on Google the history of these assassinations. I can show you his search history here. Leading up to this, he searched best places for a mass shooting. Here are some of his other Google searches. I think we can just scroll down here. Yeah, okay. And this has a timeline on this. Again, I'm going to probably just post this document because you can handle the truth. He was fascinated with this stuff. He was fascinated. You can see here, guns versus protesters, Orlando shooting reaction, cars running over protesters, firing an AR-15 as fast as possible, fertilizer bomb. How do you use a tourniquet? How to make a Molotov cocktail, how to make Molotov cocktails, pardon me, mixing gasoline with styrofoam, mass shooting Canada, Oklahoma bombing, sniper in Dallas shooting. You want me to believe on the basis of what I have seen that this individual wasn't on federal radar?
Wow.
Just wasn't on federal radar?
That's crazy, bro.
Guys, that's a
insane.
nonsense. Okay? That is an absolute nonsense. And again, the other element of this is we're never going to be told what therapists he was seeing. Okay? What his mom's walking in the room. He's practicing how to shoot. It's very clear what you can see in the background. He's practicing shots. They want us to believe that this just happened by accident, even though for years he was documenting wanting to harm politicians and people that were on the left and people that were on the right. again, on the basis of everything, whether it was their race, their color, whether they were homosexual, there's something there for everyone. So what's happening here? Well, I can tell you my suspicion. I think that this is a program. I do. I don't know, but I know.
But you know.
I don't know, but I know. Because it is giving me the same ick that I had when I was looking through the period and learning the reality of what happened throughout the 1960s when MK Ultra, when that program was running. And I have no reason to believe that that program was ever discontinued. And I believe that they find these candidates in schools. I really do. I think they find these candidates in schools. And so I wanted to express that to you, that we, once again, are having a predicament, and we can trace this straight from what they did to when JFK was assassinated.
How it looks like a program.
Where the feds are obscuring. They are using journalists to obscure. They are putting pressure on government officials. They are lying to the public about everything, except this time it's regarding Charlie Kirk, which means this time it's not going to fly because I'm not going to allow it to. Let's take a pause here. We're going to get to something that Megyn Kelly shared on her show about a hex that was put on Charlie Kirk, which is important for us to discuss for a variety of reasons. First, I'm going to throw it to some sponsors. Riverbend Ranch, I absolutely love them. Everyone has wanted to do something.
His beliefs with data and facts.
Shot season after.
At Bay Fortis, we know babies are full of surprises, but serious.
After everything we've been through over the past 5 years, the number of people that are getting the flu shot is at a record low. Yay.
Yeah,
Not to mention the fact that according to the CDC's book for safe use and get right back to life. All right, guys, wanted to get to Jimmy Kimmel. He's back on air. I guess it was a little time out for Jimmy Kimmel. I was very shocked to see people on the right who were kind of cheering on his cancellation. And I'm not denying the logic of it, going, this has happened to so many people on the right, so when it happens to you, boo-hoo. I get that. But also, if we just keep playing ping pong, nobody wins, and actually except for the government. And I think that's the reason that this sport has been created, left versus right. And Jimmy Kimmel delivered a monologue and thanked people on the right in his very Jimmy Kimmel way. And I got a shout out for saying, hey, common sense, the government should not be getting involved when it comes to speech. That's insane. We cannot cheer that on. Take a listen to his monologue.
I want to thank the people who don't support my show and what I believe, but support my right to share those beliefs anyway. Who I never would have imagined. Like Ben Shapiro, Clay Travis, Candace Owens, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, even my old pal Ted Cruz, who, believe it or not, said something very beautiful on my behalf.
I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired.
Oh, wait, no, not that. The other part.
But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying,
what you can and can't say,
what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like, that will end up bad for conservatives.
I don't think I've ever said this before, but Ted Cruz is right. He's absolutely right. This affects all of us, including him. I mean, think about it. If Ted Cruz can't speak freely, then he can't cast spells on the Smurfs. Even though I don't agree with many of those people on most subjects, some of the things they say even make me want to throw up. It takes courage for them to speak out against this administration, and they did, and they deserve credit for it, and thanks.
Feeling is mutual. There are some things you say that make me want to throw up as well. But it is important that we realize government overreach is government overreach. Doesn't matter who it's happening under, whether it's Biden or whether it's Trump, it's wrong. Okay.
That's true.
And by the way, both sides have been guilty of government overreach. So less of us taking the bait on that. I also want to say, I wanted to show you guys this clip of Megyn Kelly. It's gone pretty viral. It's everywhere, speaking about something that I did not know about, which is pertaining to a hex and a curse that Charlie and Erica Kirk were worried about. It's kind of a very shocking story. And I just want to preempt this by saying
they did it on
that
Etsy.
For those of you that don't understand that this is a spiritual war that we are fighting, you might have been like me years ago, and I referred to us as the Muggles. Of course, there are people who believe in all of this stuff, and there are people who put spells on people, and they are meaningful. They follow numerology, And it's serious. That is serious. And you think that it's not, because they have made our society so plastic and there's no substance anymore and we are so distracted. But these people who rule over us, okay, they know who they worship. They know they worship Luciferianism. And so I was very alarmed that this had happened. And I honestly had wished that Charlie had reached out to me. Even though they did end up consulting a Catholic priest, I didn't expect, I wish I could have given them the exact person. But take a listen to how Megyn Kelly shares what happened, a curse that was put on Charlie just before he went out to UVU.
I learned when I was out in Arizona last week that 2 weeks before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the far-left website Jezebel declared that it had a mission to cast bad luck or a curse on Charlie. They wanted to hurt him in some way. They declared, quote, if the far-right misogynist with a bad haircut wants to villainize independent women, Jezebel is more than happy to be the hag of his nightmares. And they went on to the website Etsy, yes, Etsy, to, quote, cast a curse on him. Yes, this is actually a thing. Etsy, the website known for making arts and crafts on demand, will happily cast a hex through its witches, who you can hire, on someone if you ask them to. Erica and Charlie Kirk heard about these curses. And that news genuinely rattled Erica in particular. She knew Christian teaching on this subject. She loved Charlie, absolutely. And she was scared when she heard of the curses Jezebel had called up. So much so that she and Charlie contacted a friend who I believe she said was a Catholic priest, but definitely a friend, and asked him to come over and pray with them over Charlie the night before he was murdered. She eventually worked it through, and so did Charlie. That, as she later told me, weapons will form but not prosper. That Satan and those witches have no power.
So just to add a little color to the story, I think that the people who did this and what we've learned about those women is I think they were probably who hired.
Yeah, I really don't think too many people know that. So they definitely hired some witches to cast a spell on him. We need to figure out who the people are that hired them, right?
People that did the hiring were probably trying to be funny. People that don't believe in spiritual forces were probably just like, LOL, it's like Vice. It's like, Vice publication. Like, I smoked a blunt and, listened to the Beatles music backwards. Like, it's like they don't take that stuff seriously. So they're trying to be like, haha, funny headline, right? And the person who wrote the article about it said, I'm not calling on dark forces to cause him harm. I just want him to wake up every morning with an inexplicable zit, right? So she's probably trying to be funny, to be fair.
Bitly can generate QR codes like this, and they have a variety of different looks and styles. You can customize it to match your brand vibe.
But contacted witches who are not trying to be funny. That's the problem when people don't understand that this stuff is real, that you're saying to a witch, yeah, I'll pay for you. I'm going to reach out to you to pay for you to put a curse on Charlie. And that witch did that. And it brought, obviously you can see, they were distressed by this. They consulted a Catholic priest who I assume would have immediately conducted an exorcism. That probably should have been done in the Latin Rite. But I feel like that's just something that people should know, because until something happens to you spiritually, you tend not to believe in these things. And like I said, that's a part of this. They very much know what religion they follow. The numbers, the numerology, it makes sense to them. The people that are in control of this world. And you should just be very cautious of that stuff. A lot of times I kind of give this example. It's like they can sell us anything as reality. Like we are now in this culture of what C.S. Lewis refers to as scientism. As long as they say like it's science, it's not weird, then we don't realize that, no, I think these are spiritual forces. Like if a witch was like, ha, here's a potion, take it, it works, you'd be like, oh, that's so crazy. I don't believe in witch potions. But like a doctor can create something and it makes you, and you're like, oh, of course, but this is like backed by science. It's like, okay, by any other name sort of a thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, but this stuff is real, and I'm glad that the end result thus far of how it has impacted society to watch Charlie be assassinated, even though we don't know who exactly was behind this, we know it was more than one person, is that people are going back to church, and that they had that instinct when they watched it. They suddenly realized, whoa, They got hit spiritually, even if they hadn't been to church in years. I was getting comments. I haven't been to church in 20 years. And for some reason, watching the death of Charlie Kirk made me know that I needed to go to church. That is at least one thing in this. And there have been other things that has made me very happy.
It's because Charlie reached a lot of people and his faith was really strong. So I think he stands behind that.
I want to make sure I have time for your comments because we do have book club tonight, and I'm going to build upon what we're speaking over these last 2 weeks. This book we're reading is very important.
Yeah, so she's going to go into her book and stuff, but I just want to thank everybody that's came to the stream and dropped a like. If you guys can, please subscribe. I will be coming and doing live streams at least 3 times a week, probably around the same time, around 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If you guys want to come back and check out what we got, we will be following this whole case, and if any new information comes out, or if Candace drops anything, or any of these other people drop anything, Valhalla, VFT, anybody drops anything, we will analyze it and see what the new news is, right? So I appreciate everybody that's been dropping in, dropping a like and supporting the channel. Go ahead and go to facing. Yeah, I just appreciate everybody. So make sure that you guys drop in the comments what you guys think about this whole case. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.